really like how you done for me. Listen, whatever you like, I like it too. Anywho, good afternoon, and welcome back to the Operation Hill 100 Hearts channel, where we do what? Focus on healing, humor, and hot mother freaking topics. I have on my damn DJ shirt, but I'm gonna do a damn DJ after. So today I'm focused on the hot topics, and we are doing a show review. Why y'all behinds did not tell me that I'm so busy celebrating the 4th of July, I forgot that I took notes for College Hill episode 4, but didn't record the video? Come on, y'all supposed to be keeping me abreast. Y'all hitting me up about Dear DJ, which I love. Y'all get into the Dear DJ segment of my channel. But everybody was hitting me up about Lit at 6 and Dear DJ. They forgot all about the College Hill reviews. So let's get into it. Let's get into College Hill episode 4. It's called Lost in the Sauce, right? Let me take a little sip of my water. The episode starts off with them still trying to finish their homework assignments, and Saucy Santana is still off at the club. Saucy Santana was there downing shots of Don Julio. Saucy Santana was teed up at the club, right? So then he came in at 5 o'clock in the morning. Everybody was up pretty late because they was working on their homework assignments. So when he brought his ass in at 5 in the morning making all that noise, the rest of the cast was mortified. They was like, sit your ass down. You here banging around and stomping around like Congo. We don't want to hear that shit. You was out partying and we trying to handle fucking business. So they was hot with Saucy. But Saucy came in making all these noises and said, listen, I got to do what I got to do. In his confessional, he was like, listen, these people signed up to be old fogies and just go to school. I didn't sign up for only that. College is absolutely fun, and I'm going to have the school and the fun and more of the fun and say fuck the school. Pretty much that's how he feels, right? He said they in there acting like old birds, right? The next morning, everybody is up, tired because they was up late working on their homework, and also because Santana came in disrupting everybody, right? So, while they were still getting ready to head out, Saucy Santana, as he does his normal behavior, he's still in the bed doing like, I can't come out. I can't get dressed. Wait, I'm not ready yet. So next thing you know what excuse Saucy said this time? I got diarrhea. Yeah, Saucy, you would have diarrhea because your liver's leaking because you took down a whole case of Don Julio the night before when you supposed to be home studying. Listen, we know what Saucy into, right? So they was like, listen, you got to get up. Let's get it together. But this day, they were not going to school. They were going on a field trip. Right, and Saucy was like, I'm not interested in a fucking field trip. That don't interest me. I don't have time for that. It's Sunday. Y'all going on ahead and leave me behind, right? So he decided not to come. The field trip was at the Whitney Plantation, and they was meeting up with Dr. Roberts, and she's a professor of the mass communication class, right? It was a gentleman there named, his name is Dr. Ibrahim. He was pretty much showing them around. He was showing them how the slaves were abused on the plantation, the children that were born on the plantation, how they were taken away from the parents, how they were denied education. It was just a really educational field trip, and it got folks thinking. Because I know a lot of times, and I've been guilty of saying this too, we can make ignorant statements like, slavery was how many other years ago, and that's not affecting us now, and so on and so forth. But as I started educating myself and learning and growing, what I got to see is a lot of the way we were emasculated and treated and abused back then as slaves, it still contributes to some of our behavior today because some of those attitudes and mindsets have trickled down in our family generations. So although I may have not been a slave in my life right now, maybe my great-great-great-great-great-great-grandmother was, and trickled down some of her behaviors with being under that type of pressure and abuse to her children and to their children and to their children. And in some ways now it has trickled off in us, right? And I think one way that I can honestly see the way slavery can impact us now is the crab in a barrel syndrome, where I feel like, especially with starting this YouTube channel, people want to see you do good but never better than them, right? So they, so to speak, want to keep you down at a certain level. And I feel like back then in slavery, of course, that's what took place. You had some of the head niggas and, the house nigga and, those people who thought they was better than the other niggas in the field and, basically trying to keep them underneath them so they can be the most important ones. And I feel like that's what happens nowadays. If you notice, when you start a business, you will get a lot of fake support and a lot of pretenders, even from your closest people. So I actually enjoyed that field trip, and I thought it was very educational. They took a moment to honor the ancestors. So I thought that was nice. Right? They got back to the house, and Nick told Saucy to come downstairs because he wanted to talk to him. And y'all remember I told y'all, I personally am enjoying watching the development of a heterosexual male and a homosexual male relationship. right? Because I think a lot of times, folks do feel like if you are a part of a certain lifestyle, that prohibits me from being friends with you. While I agree to some degree, I also disagree to some degree. In one sense, I do understand that, my personal feeling. Most times when folks are into something that you're not into, we're not relatable because the things you want to discuss and the activities that you partake in, I don't. So it's not necessarily I don't want to be your friend because I don't like you. I'm just not interested in what you're interested in. Like, for example, being on this healing journey, I find that I often like to distance myself from folks who are not on a journey. And I'm not distancing myself because I dislike you or think I'm better than you or any of the sort. I'm distancing myself because I can't relate to all the pain that you're going through, only because you're choosing to stay within that, right? Whereas with me, I channel all of my pain into purpose and I push forward, right? So anytime I'm around a person that's constantly like, oh, I'm going through this, I'm going through this, I'm going through this, and they continuously seeing the glass half empty, for me, I kind of get turned off and kind of want to stay away because I see the glass is half full. So I could understand why homosexual and heterosexual folks feel like we don't need to hang out because we're not relatable. But then the other part of that is there is some areas that people can relate no matter what their lifestyle is. And if that's okay, you can hang with them. Like case in point, in the beginning when Carlos, Nick, and Santana went to the basketball game, they all enjoyed the game because they're all sports lovers, not because you're gay and I'm straight and all that BS, right? So I'm enjoying watching the relationship between Nick and Saucy develop, right? So he was like, come downstairs. So he basically was like, what's up with you in school? Because you tripping. You keep calling out. You keep saying you can't make it. We didn't come here for that. This is an opportunity for us, so on and so forth, right? He said, you're not taking this experience serious. You need to get it together. Boom, 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 boom. So Saucy automatically got in defense mode. And I think what it is for Saucy, because we're going to see that at the end of the episode, is Saucy can be confrontational and he also can be sensitive. So when he is met with constructive criticism, no matter how it's delivered, the fact that you're saying something against what he's doing or about what he's doing that's not positive, instead of him being mature enough to be able to receive it in the moment, he automatically goes on the defense. What I do like about him is after the fact, he can own up to and admit and be like, yo, I understood your point. I might have been tripping. Thank you for hitting me up. But in those moments, he's automatically going on the defense so he doesn't look like the one in the wrong or the bad guy, right? So when he goes there, they start arguing. He starts saying F you. So Carlos separates them. And Carlos is now talking to Saucy one-on-one. And he like, listen, bro, you got to take this opportunity serious. We ain't come here for nothing. They here to educate us. We got to do what we got to do. Wooty, 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 woo. He was like, I don't want you to be, losing out on this opportunity. I was looking at Carlos like, Carlos, shut the fuck up in your white tee. Like I said, you look like an old ass franchise boy to me. And what I also was saying, the reason I also was saying that is because you see how you know that, Carlos? Which brings me back to another video I recorded where I was saying I feel like it was something personal with that professor and Carlos, and it's personal with any man of stature that Carlos has to interact with, because Carlos knows what's right and what's wrong. He sat there and broke it down to Saucy. But I noticed that when you get in the presence of certain males, you don't exercise what you already know. So Carlos, shut the fuck up because I didn't want to hear that bullshit, right? Anywho, at least not from you. Good, right message, wrong messenger. In the next scene, the group heads out to have a little recreational time, and then we see. And then we see JR. I didn't want to see JR. For whatever reason, I did not. For whatever reason, Tamar and JR's relationship irritates me. Not JR. Personally, right? Tamar irritates me, the character she plays. I don't know her personal enough to know if that's really her, right? So that irritates me, and them combined irritates me, right? So as soon as I see him, I was like, why are you here? He just gives very clout chasey. I'm sorry, he just gives very clout chasey. The things that him and Simone Gubadia, they can hang out together. Him and Simone Gubadia would be a perfect team, right? So anyway, I see him, and the cast is very receptive to him. I could see he can be very charismatic and sociable. So it was like, hey, okay, take my then they started to get hookah, drinks. They started partying, right? So I see is twerking, Claudia. Claudia, right? You know what it is, Claudia. you have to pick a side, right? Now, there are the Valley black girls that pretty much grew up very suburban. You know, they don't have anything about them that's ghetto or hood, and they live in a bubble, right? Me personally, I love those girls. That's who I want to hang out with. You know why? Because they're total opposite from what I've been raised around and how I've been raised. So I enjoy their company. I also enjoy the company of my fellow comrades, which is the ghetto and the hood people, because I can relate to them. I think for you, Claudia, you would rather be more relatable to the kind of ghetto and hood, but you can't help that that's not who you are. And a lot of times who you are just shines bright and through, and it was all up and through you when you was there dancing. I was looking at Claudia. Claudia, you ain't never been to a Dollarama? You know what a Dollarama is? A Dollarama is a hood house party that you pay $1 to get in, where you dance so hard on the person that y'all rub the paint off the wall. But in those parties, you got to really know how to move. And I was fat all my life, but baby, I was getting it in. I was getting in. I was bogling. I was butterflying to the ground. I was hitting a split. We'll get into how I used to dance back in the days, because y'all don't know my life. But anywho, the moral of the story is, you ain't hood and ratchet enough to be with this cast that they put you with. So a lot of times your Valley girl is shining through. And it's a little comical because you try to hide it instead of just letting it shine through. But anywho, when they get back to the house, Claudia is the only one up. And she like, listen, we didn't finish our bill that we have to do for Dr. Frazier's class. And one thing I do like about Claudia is she's very ambitious. She's very consistent, and she likes to see things through. So for her, it was like, okay, it was nice to go out to party, but bitch, we got shit to do. Right? So anywho, the next morning, because they're unprepared, Claudia said, well, let me reach out to Dr. Frazier. And she sent Dr. Frazier an email and was like, listen, we need more time to complete the bill, right? They all headed out for school. Saucy said, Saucy, Saucy, why you here, bro? For the check. My bad. I'm sorry. It's a check involved, so I get it. Because Saucy, you ain't got school to think about, and school ain't got you to think about. But anywho, once again, here Saucy go with the nonsense. Y'all leave me, I'm gonna be late. You know, and he did end up coming later, so he kept his word, right? So they ended up in their philosophy class, and then they went to their mass communication class, and then Saucy, you know, like I said, he joined the cast. And when they went into the class, Professor Roberts started off reminding them about their platform and how important it is for them to be there and really represent, you know, how celebrities are taking advantage of this HBCU experience, you know, and not BSing, right? And also how it is important to represent Xavier University in a particular way, right? And just because you're celebrities, you don't get to make us look bad because we're letting you participate here with us, right? So I respected that, right? And then the next thing, she invited 2 guests there. Now, the 2 older women was Miss Ella and Miss Irene. They were the surviving residents of the lost community of Fayetteville, Louisiana, right? And the students were there to interview them and talk to them about how they came up in slavery. You know, what did they do in them times when slavery existed? You know, how did they feel when their neighborhood was taken away from them? I thought that was cool for them to actually have people there, you know, in the physical to be able to have that conversation with, because it's even more educational when you have somebody who has been through it. So I was like, okay, I can get with that, right? So next up, they went to Dr. Frazier's class, right? And somewhere along the line, which I don't remember, they actually finished the bill. They finished the bill by the time it was time to go to Dr. Frazier's class, right? So when they got there, he was like, listen, because of Claudia's email earlier, I canceled the appointment with the congressman because I thought that y'all wasn't there. Y'all wasn't doing what y'all had to do because that's what y'all said. And I didn't have time to wait till congressman's time. So I told him, let's reschedule. He said, but in all reality, you all have a failing grade, and in order for you to redeem yourself, you have 3 days to handle your motherfucking business. So they like, oh my God, what are we going to do? You see Angela looking stressed, Claudia looking depressed, Carlos looking hurt, Nick looking... Girl, you know what Saucy was doing? Dozing his ass off. Of course Saucy would be dozing. He was out all night, right? So I was like, oh my God, Saucy is crazy. Anywho, he started texting in class when he wasn't dozing. So it was just too much. It was just too much, right? After they left the class, they went out in like one of the recreation areas. Like say it's not where you have class at, but it's also like where you can get snacks and, you know, have a seat, kind of decompress until you go up to your next class. While he was sitting there, he got approached by Dr. Payton, right? Now, it's crazy because I'm going to talk about this in a damn DJ video that I'm going to drop right after this, right? I can always assess, including with self, when personalities are not going to mix. Like, I'll give you an example of a personality, a public figure that if I met, we just wouldn't mix well together. I personally am not a fan of who can I honestly say? And this is just from, again, I'm using a public figure so I can make it relatable to everybody. And this is also from the character I see them play. I don't know these people personally. I probably wouldn't take kindly to Charlamagne Tha God's personality. And I say that because a lot of times when I watch his interviews, I personally am not a fan of picking and choosing, right? I don't like when you will treat one set of people a particular way and then another set of people a particular way, depending on who they are. So, like, case in point, the way that Charlamagne would interview Little Mama, right, is not the same way that Charlamagne would interview Rihanna. Right? And I just don't like it. I don't like it. I don't care what awards and accolades or how much billionaire status Rihanna have. The same way she's a young black woman, so is Little Mama. So for me, I could already see if I was in the presence of Charlamagne Tha God, our personalities probably wouldn't click. Long story short, I saw that with Dr. Peyton and Saucy from the beginning. Because Dr. Peyton is like a stern older woman that's not for the game and the antics, and she want to hold you accountable and let you know what's right or wrong. And Saucy does not like rules. He doesn't like to be confined to anything, and he doesn't like nobody telling him nothing. So I knew that wasn't going to mesh from the beginning, right? But I said, let's see how it play out, right? So she walked up to Saucy, and again, I feel like they both know that me and you ain't going to rock. So anytime that they have to engage, it isn't present on either part. Because when she came, don't get me wrong, she came professional, but it wasn't pleasant enough to engage him knowing the energy there. So it was like, hey, are you done for whatever you're doing? Because I need to talk to you. Right? So Saucy immediately, as soon as he saw her, gave her the up and down and basically was like, how can I help you? So she was like, well, I need to talk to you at the time. He was like, I got an appointment, so I can't talk right now. So she was like, well, you have to talk. So he was like, no, you can talk right here. She's like, right here? He's like, right here. So she was like, well, basically, I'm just getting that you've been missing days, that you're not performing well, that you missed a field trip, that you falling asleep and you texting in class, yada, yada, yada. Once again, Saucy gave her the once over. Were you in the class? So she was like, no, but this is being reported by the professors who I trust don't have to lie, right? So he was like, listen, I've been in all my classes and I ain't seen you there. So you can't be coming back telling me what the fuck nobody else said, because truly, I don't give a fuck about what they said. So she was like, okay, Mr. Santana, you gotta relax. He's like, I don't need to. You gotta come with me. I would never. We need to talk. No, we don't. So he was off the fucking lady, looking her up and down, giving her the once over. She was trying to keep it together, but you could see her church skirt was unraveling at the seams and it was not going well, right? So finally, when it started to become a back and forth, and let me tell you what information is true and what information is not. The academic advisor suggested that Saucy and her and all the professors sit down and meet, since Saucy is arguing that what they're saying is not true about him, right? So he was like, listen, I already told you I'm busy from 4 to 8 today and I don't have time for this, you, the sermon, or the motherfucking church, so please leave me the fuck alone, right? So she was like, listen, and we can schedule for another time, so on and so forth, right? Then he called the academic... Let me tell you something about when you want to insult somebody, because I'm not going to lie, the petty part of me that's still unhealed, sometimes I would do that. When you want to insult somebody, you either call them a term of endearment or you mispronounce their name. Me personally, I normally mispronounce the name, right? So say case in point, I won't say that. But anywho, say case in point, I go into a doctor's office, right? And as soon as I encounter the receptionist, she is being a bitch, right? So what I'll do is, and again, I'm working on this, right? Say like, she's like, oh, I'm your receptionist. My name is Vanity, and I'll be helping you today. But again, being nasty to me, right? I'll be like, okay. No problem. I'm being polite and calm, but I'm waiting for my moment to stab her ass back, right? So what I'll do is, say if the doctor comes out, and be like, oh, I'm happy you here, Miss Allen. What can I do to help you? I'll be like, oh, you don't need to help me because Vanessa helped me with everything. No, my name is Vanity. Oh, I'm sorry. You don't have to do anything because Velcro helped me with everything. Like, I'll just say a million names but her name. So I felt like that's what Saucy did with Dr. Peyton, because instead of being like professor or doctor or even just saying her name, he calls her babe. And the one thing that I know professionals do not like is to be called something other than their name, right? And not just professionals, but I mean, you're normally when you have a doctorate, so you're a judge, or you're always correcting people like, no, it's attorney so-and-so, or no, it's judge, you know what I'm saying? I don't know, it's a power struggle. Anyway, he calls her babe. She was like, no, not babe, Dr. Stewart, right? So then he calls her doc. I was cracking up. I was like, I knew Saucy ass was going to be the one, right? So then the rest of the cast was just standing around, right? They was ear hustling, and then Nick went over there, and he was like, well, what's going on? So Santana was like, y'all better get this lady. I was on the floor. I was like, Saucy is crazy. So then he was standing there after he said, y'all better get this lady. He got up and he was like, you know what, let me just go because I feel myself about to lose it. And you can see in these moments, this was a genuine moment. This wasn't for the cameras. You could see in Saucy face and in Dr. Peyton face, this was a serious moment, right? So he was looking at her crazy. He got up and he was like, let me get her go, right? So Tamar and Nick was accompanying him in the elevator. They was like, listen, calm down. Let's diffuse the situation. You getting out of hand, calm down. So they got in this little teeny weeny elevator and the cameras is so thirsty to get the footage, they get in the elevator with them. So Saucy like, get your ass out this elevator. Get off this elevator. So he started trying to push the cameraman out. When the cameraman didn't come out, Saucy came out the elevator. And now you see the academic advisor looking at Saucy like, you're making an ass of yourself on our campus. You can honestly see Dr. Peyton and her fucking church blazer was over Santana ass, right? So he comes out the elevator and he like, listen, y'all stop following me with that camera. Leave me the fuck alone. Girl, Claudia went over there and saw what was going on. Claudia said, he won't tear off my losing Isaiah wig. Claudia fled the fucking scene so quick to get away from that. She ain't asked what happened or nothing, at least not to that group. She ran, right? So when she ran with her losing Isaiah wig, Saucy got in the elevator. They went where they had to go, right? So the academic advisor and the teachers decided to have the meeting without Saucy. And basically what they were saying was like, listen, he's performing poorly. He hasn't even showed up to any other class, and to add insult to injury, he's being careless and he's disengaging. And that's just not a representation of what we do at HBCUs. And this is being made public. So we don't want anybody to think that this is ever going to be an HBCU experience. No, we hold our students to a higher standard, right? So I was like, wow, I got it, right? What I did like about the conversation that they was having regarding Saucy and his behavior, and this goes for Cass because Carlos, Claudia, and Angela was having their own side conversation about Saucy behaviors, and like I said, the professor and the academic advisor was having it. They all basically was saying his behavior was poor, but at the same breath, they were saying that they felt like he had all the potential in the world to take advantage of this opportunity, and they wanted to see him soar and fly. And for that, I like that, and they was like, listen, we're willing to give him a chance, and let's see if he'll turn around, but they basically said the bottom line is he has to want that for himself. Right, so this episode was good. This episode was really good. I love seeing Dr. Peyton and Saucy go head to head. It was a good episode. I honestly enjoyed it. I hope you guys are tuned in. I want to talk to y'all because we got to watch Deb's House. Deb's House is so good. I'm going to do a recap of the episodes we already missed, and then we'll get into that. But in any event, thank you guys for tuning in. I love when y'all come and check me out. I'm sorry I'm late with this review. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and enjoy your hot summer day. Here, I'm here in NYC. Mwah. See how this thing do me?